can pick something else. Why should she pick something else? She needs to learn a sport, and Richard can teach her a sport. You can use your mother's old golf clubs. They're upstairs gathering dust along with the rest of her potential. Okay, Mom.
We are talking season 1, episode 3 of Gilmore Girls. So this episode, the plot of it was the fact that Rory has to come up with a sport as part of her requirements at Chilton. And so the sport she decides to go with is golf. And on Lorelai's side, her big plot was she was planning a big wedding at the Independence Inn, and basically the wedding consisted of 2 sets of twins getting married. The big thing about this episode was you saw how manipulative Emily Gilmore was and how she is like a mastermind. Like, you honestly have to give her props. Like, the episode starts off with you getting to see more of their Friday night dinners and kind of like what that all entails and kind of like see some of the conversation that happens at those dinners. But the big twist is when they're talking about Rory and Chilton and she brings up how she has to find a sport. Emily immediately zeroes in and she's like, hey, well, Rory, your grandfather plays golf. He can teach you how to play golf like this Saturday, so that can be your sport of choice. And so Lorelai tries to step in and she's like, hey, Mom, she doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to do golf. She's not interested in it. And Emily's like, why not? Her grandfather can teach her. That would meet her requirement. It would be perfect. And so you're just going to have Lorelai and her mom, Emily, going back and forth. And her mom is a mastermind at getting everyone to bend to her will, because no one but Emily Gilmore wants Rory to go golfing. The grandfather doesn't. Like, he's making faces the whole time Emily's requesting this. Rory's just kind of sitting there looking at her mom like, help me, I don't want to do this. And Lorelai is the only one fighting back like, hey, okay, we don't want to do this. So you just kind of see the inner workings of Emily and how, like, I was impressed. I'm not gonna lie, I was very impressed at how she manipulated everyone. But I was like, that's the art right there, and they showed it very well. But as the episode goes on, Rory does end up going golfing with her grandfather, and they actually have fun, which shocks Lorelai, and it makes her feel some type of way, and she kind of like lashes out at Rory because of that. It feels weird to her that Rory is going towards something that Lorelai left, and so Rory and Lorelai, their big argument is they have an argument about who has a bigger bra size. That's what the argument's about, but it's not what it's about. It's about something bigger, that Lorelai just has to cope with the fact that her daughter is interested in bonding with her grandparents, which is something that she never had. She never had that relationship with them. And so on Lorelai's plot of the story, she's focusing on a wedding with twins, and the mother of these twins cannot stand her kids, which is wild to me. Like, there's this whole dialogue where the mom's like, do you hate your daughter? Like, do you just hate your kids? And the mom's like, I do. I'm like, dang. The mom of the twins is actually very excited because at the end she finds out they're moving like states away, and she's like, this is perfect. But the big running joke is the fact that the twins are marrying twins, and everyone's asking all the questions like, okay, how do you tell each other apart? What happens if you end up with the wrong twin? Like, there's just all these things that could happen, and so they kind of like interlace that into the episode. All the questions that are going through your head, like, okay, you marry twins and you're a twin. Like, it pretty much, they brought up all the questions that you'd have in that real situation. And so that was kind of like the whole thing. And then you have Suki and Jackson, they're arguing over fruit, and there's a whole scene where they're like running up the block just chasing each other because Jackson can't give her strawberries, but Suki's like, I need strawberries for strawberry shortcake, and he's like, I have blueberries instead. And so Jackson catches Suki trying to buy strawberries from someone else, and he's like, you're gonna buy fruit from someone else? It's kind of like starting the start of like their relationship and kind of hinting like they like each other, but they're not at that stage yet. And so overall, I enjoyed this episode. I just feel like we're still in season 1, early episode, so you're still learning more about the characters, but it was just very impressive to me, Emily. Like, you kind of get to see her more in how, like, of a mastermind. Like, that's really the word that comes to mind. She's a mastermind, and she just knows how to play people. Also, what was kind of sad is, as I mentioned before, Lorelai's big issue in this is the fact that Rory is becoming close to her grandparents, and she kind of feels left out. And so that's actually how the episode ends. They go to the Friday night dinner that Lorelai already tried to get out of. She's like, you did a golf lesson. We could try to get out of Friday night dinner so we don't have to go. And we could just do something, the two of us. And Rory's like, no, I want to see my grandparents because I got to pick up a book. And so she actually is actively wanting to see them. And so they go to the dinner, and then the grandfather comes in. He's like, Rory, I got the book, but not only do I have this, I have first edition. And so then they all leave Lorelai, and the episode just ends with her like sipping on her wine by herself while everyone else is gone. And so it kind of like just parallels the whole episode and how Rory is becoming close to her grandparents, and Lorelai is kind of feeling left out. And that was the big concern that her mom brought up earlier. And when Lorelai did not want Rory to actually go with her, she's just like, hey, you don't want her to go because you don't want Rory to have fun without you. And so that's kind of like the underlying theme of this episode. And you kind of see like Lorelai's just kind of feeling left out, which is kind of sad, because I'm all about being inclusive, and I try my best to in what I do, just because I have always been a person where I want everyone to feel welcome, because I've been in situations where it hasn't been welcoming and it can hurt your heart. Like, it honestly can. So I'm not gonna lie, I definitely felt for Lorelai how the episode ended. I was like, that's kind of sad. Like, I mean, at least a mom could have stayed with her, someone could have stayed with her, but they all just like kind of left her and she's just there by herself. And so that kind of broke my heart a little bit, but I'm excited to see what happens in the next episode and to continue this saga and see what happens. Okay, see y'all for the next episode. This has been another episode of Real Talk with Noelle.